It would be a terrible decision. Yes, a black woman would be terrific, but I've got black women that would be way better. Let's start with Nina Turner. Not going to happen, but will be way better. Second, Barbara Lee. Not going to happen, would be way better. Third, she's definitely not invited to my Christmas party, and I'm a Jew, but Karen Bass is far better than Kamala Harris in terms of progressive bona fides. She's not Nina Turner, but she's at least somewhat in the game. So let me just take you down memory lane, and this is a credit to independent journalist Walker Bragman.
Patterson. Okay, so I say with all love and warmth that part of the concern also for people who are progressive thinking and liberal-minded, or just progressive thinking in terms of just fix it, is that we all have these posters in our closet that is attached to a stick that we sometimes will card out when we're talking about criminal justice policy and those statistics that you first heard when we opened it up, incarceration. And we run around with these signs, build more schools, less jails. Build more schools, less jails. And we walk around everywhere. Build more schools. We protest. Build more schools, less jails. Put money into education, not prisons. There's a fundamental problem with that approach, in my opinion. And it's this. I agree with that conceptually. But you have not addressed the reason I have 3 padlocks on my front door. So part of the discussion about reform of criminal justice policy has to be an acknowledgement that crime does occur, and especially when it is violent crime and serious crime, well, there should be a broad consensus that there should be serious and severe and swift consequence to crime.
Build more schools, less jails. I'm okay with that conceptually. Well, Kamala, maybe you need 3 padlocks, which I think is a little overblown, a little overworried. Maybe because the Democratic Party, as the enablers of the Republican Party for the last 40 years, have abandoned inner cities, have not invested pretty much anything in Flint, Detroit, major parts of Chicago, other than the parts that Rahm Emanuel gentrified. You go across the list: Cleveland, Milwaukee, Philadelphia. I could go on and on and on and on. Schools, lack of jobs programs for black and brown people that start a mile down the line in the race for life from white people. No good jobs, no good schools, cutting community center programs, cutting youth programs. No wonder there's some crime in communities. But because you don't understand that, or frankly care, we need to build more jails. Let me tell you something. You build more schools, you as a government stop giving trillions to multi-billion-dollar corporate conglomerates that don't need it, and start redirecting those billions to direct government jobs programs for young black, brown, indigenous people and poor white people. See how far, see how quickly crime goes down. It ain't rocket science. But Kamala Harris is a cop at heart. She don't get it. She don't get it. Build more schools, less jails. Yeah, I believe with that conceptually, but, it's kind of like, yes, I believe as a Democrat in the idea of universal health care. We just disagree on the road to get there. We will be saying and hearing and taking in that same bullshit for the next 50 years if progressives don't seize power. Because Kamala Harris doesn't understand crime as an issue is an issue because you've given millions and millions of people, mostly disadvantaged and minorities, no other choice. That's not defending people committing crimes, but if you don't have any way to provide for your family, sometimes you're going to sell drugs. If you don't have any way to provide for your family, sometimes you're going to steal. If you don't have any way to provide for your family, sometimes you're going to put forth counterfeit bills. And I could go on and on and on. But the types of crimes where her donors commit, oh, Kamala Harris isn't as swift. Go ask Steve Mnuchin, who should have been in jail, but Kamala Harris decided not to prosecute. Go ask all the leading bankers. It's not Kamala's fault they weren't, but Obama didn't prosecute that. So Kamala believes in swift justice for people who have been forgotten and basically deserted by the federal, state, and local government, but not for her donors. That's who would be vice president. And frankly, that's who would likely become president in possibly even before 2024. But there's more. Here's Kamala Harris bragging about why she brought charges against single mothers, a single homeless mother of 3 who was working 2 jobs because her children were truant.
And through that initiative, we found cases like the case of the woman who was by herself, raising her 3 children, holding down 2 jobs, and homeless. She just needed some help. But by shining this infrared spotlight of public safety on the fact that her children aren't in school, we were able to figure that out, get her access to services that exist, and through that process, the attendance of her children improved. We dismissed the charges against her, and overall, we've improved attendance for this population in San Francisco by 20% over the last 2 years. So I declared then, bad guy, I'm going to start prosecuting parents for truancy. If you know anything about San Francisco politics, you would know that there were tomatoes being thrown left, right, and center. I had no intention or desire to prosecute parents.
Yeah.
But shedding this infrared spotlight that we have of public safety on an issue that is a seemingly small issue got the attention we needed, and we ended up, through a series of approaches, improving attendance by over 30%. As Attorney General, last year I published the first study on elementary school truancy in the state of California. We had 1 million California elementary school students who were truant, 250,000 who missed over 10% of the school year, 44,000 who missed over 20% of the school year. It is well documented. An elementary school truant is 4 to 5 times likely to become a high school dropout. 82% of the prisoners in the United States are high school dropouts. When you look at the statistic in terms of African American men, an African American man who's between the age of 30 and 34, if he is a high school dropout, is 2/3 likely to be in prison, have been in prison, or dead. The numbers and the statistics are absolutely clear. There's a very direct connection between public education and public safety. And so if we're going to be smart as in a system and effective, let's deal with it while we can actually have an impact. And by the way, even if you don't care about children, it's just going to be cheaper.
I want somebody who brags about looking mean to single homeless mothers, intimidating them so they'll get their act together and send their kids to school. You know, we don't need to try a different approach, like possibly sending a social worker there without the threat of arrest, possibly sending health officials, social workers to actually, right off the top, instead of looking mean, looking like you're there to help. No. Let's brag about looking mean for the single homeless mothers, which, by the way, ironically, there might be a lot more of those now with that eviction moratorium coming up. Because like we've said, the cliff is already here. People are hanging off the cliff. But then there's this one.
So nothing I am saying suggests that someone should be forgiven without consequence for committing a crime. You commit a crime, you have to be held accountable. But there is life after that, and there are steps we can take after that person has been held accountable to achieve our goals of public safety. And so, for example, in Back on Track, we require the offender to plead guilty. Why? Because he's guilty. Right? The guy was out there slinging drugs on the corner. And some people would like to suggest it's a victimless crime. I would tell you it's not. You were guilty. You were out there. And by the way, I don't feel sorry for you. And I am not going to forgive you for committing a crime. But I do know what you're capable of after you've been held accountable. So let's get on the path of dealing with that also.
Don't you think Kamala Harris wishes she was around during the good old days when Joe Biden was talking about getting those predators off the street? When Joe Biden was pushing the crime bill. I mean, you can't make this up. This is who Joe Biden is most likely to choose? You want to talk about mobilizing the base? Well, I don't know if you're going to be mobilizing younger black people with Kamala Harris as your choice. I don't know if you're going to be mobilizing a lot of younger brown people if Kamala Harris is your choice. I don't know. Bernie had a lock on Latinos. I don't know how many Latinos are voting for Joe Biden when they didn't support him in the primary. And you basically have this cop talking about going after single homeless mothers, talking about how it put a smile on her face. And, you know, the list goes on. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.